Today we're going to disassemble or field strip the Ruger Security 9 or Security 380 light rack pistol. The Security 380 and the Security 9 disassemble the same exact way. First, as usual, we want to remove the magazine, lock the slide back, make sure there is no round in the chamber so that the gun is completely unloaded. All right, now take the slide, push it back to release the slide stop and allow it to close all the way. So to get the slide off of the grip frame, we need to remove this piece here. This is a pin that goes all the way through the gun and holds it together. So what we need to do is line up this notch in the slide with the pin that way. And you can either hold it like I am and hold it back like that, or you could kind of push it angled onto the table to get it lined up. But so you can see it, I'm going to do it this way. So once you have it perfectly lined up with this pin, you want to get behind it. If you have strong fingernails, you can pull it out just like that with your fingernail and remove it from the gun. If you don't have strong fingernails or you just don't want to risk your fingernail, taking a very small screwdriver, put a little piece of electrical tape on it so I don't damage the slide or the pin on my brand new gun. So you can do that. So you just hold it back like this, line up the notch in the slide with the takedown pin, get your protected screwdriver behind it, pry it out a little bit, and pull it out the rest of the way. Now you can release the slide, and as long as your safety is off, the slide will come right off the grip. Now simply turn the slide over, press forward a little bit on the guide rod and recoil spring, release. That comes right out. That's the front, that's the back. And then now you can just lift up your barrel, grab a hold of that, and pull it out like that. And now your gun is completely field stripped or disassembled for cleaning. Ruger Security 9 or Security 380 light rack pistol reassembly. First, we're just going to take the slide, hold it upside down, take the barrel like this, drop the barrel in, take the recoil spring assembly. This is the back, this is the front with the hole in it. It goes right in here like this, and then put a little bit of pressure on it, and it goes right down in that notch. Make sure that's right in the middle there. Next, turn the slide back over, line it up with the frame, line it up, and slowly bring it back. Make sure that you don't hit the back of the slide on the ejector pin right here, which could scratch it. Just nice and easy right there. And it should slide on there pretty easy. And now what you want to do is line up this notch with this notch again, so we can put the pin back in. It should look like that. Take your pin with the notches facing upward like that. Put it in nice and straight. As long as you're holding those notches lined up, it'll press right in like that. And then you'll be able to release the slide. Now you'll want to just work the slide, make sure it feels like it did before, make sure it closes all the way. And now you have reassembled your Ruger Security 380. There are some function and safety checks you'll want to do real quick to make sure everything is back together properly and functioning properly. I'll put a link in the description below and maybe one up top so you can run through that procedure. In this video, we're going to disassemble, clean, lubricate, and reassemble the Ruger Security 9 or Security 380 light rack pistol. This is the 380 version, but the Security 9 disassembles and cleans up the same exact way. So first, of course, we're going to unload the gun, remove the magazine, and make sure there's no round in the chamber. Now we're going to field strip the gun. We're going to remove the slide, and in order to do that, we need to close the slide. We want to take a hold of the gun. We want to line up this notch with this takedown pin. This takedown pin comes right out. All right, if you have trouble getting that out, you can get a screwdriver, but make sure you put some tape around the screwdriver so you don't scratch up your slide. And once that is out, the slide comes right off the front. Turn it upside down, put pressure on the recoil spring and guide rod, pull that out. Now you can lift up the barrel, pull that out. It's now apart as far as it needs to be for cleaning. So in order to clean this gun, we're just going to take some original gun oil, which is a CLP, which is a cleaner, lubricant, and protectant. Basically, we're going to use it as a cleaner. We're going to coat the dirty areas of the gun, let it sit for a few minutes, then we're going to wipe everything down to clean it up. We're going to put a bore snake through the barrel to clean the inside of the barrel up, and then we're going to put a little tiny bit of lube on it and reassemble. We don't need much to clean the gun. All I'm going to use here is, as I said, original gun oil, which is a CLP. We're going to use some long cotton swabs. We have some short cotton swabs here as well. A good gun brush with a small brush and a large brush. An old toothbrush will fit the bill here. I've got a bunch of cut up t-shirts to use as rags. And the easiest way to clean the inside of your barrel is with a bore snake. This is a Hoppe's bore snake designed for 380 or 9mm. These are pretty inexpensive, so we're going to use that to clean the inside of the barrel. Okay, so first we're just going to take some cleaner, which is our CLP here, and we're just going to coat each piece a little bit. You can use gloves if you want. This is non-toxic, so I don't use gloves. I'm not too worried about it. I'm just going to get some original gun oil on each piece. You don't need a whole lot. On this part, I'm just going to brush it. Just going to brush it on here. Just get a little coating of original gun oil cleaner all over each piece. For the barrel, I'm going to put a couple drops in the barrel. I'm going to use a cotton swab just to lightly kind of smear it around in there a little bit. It's okay if you get a little bit too much in there. We're going to wipe it all out. It's all going to come out. Get that in there, and that's just going to start loosening the dirt. We'll put a little on the outside as well. You can use a rag to apply it. I just use my fingers. It's just the easiest way. On the slide, put a couple of drops, especially the slide cuts along the inside edge. That's where the slide moves along the frame, so you want to make sure those are clean. Just some drops. The only place you don't want to get oil is in the firing pin hole right here. This is the breech face, and this is the firing pin hole. You don't want to get oil in there. All right, so then you just kind of smear the oil around. Try and get it on every surface a little bit. We're going to let it sit for a little while to loosen up any dirt. All right, if the outside is dirty, you can also put a little bit there, but the outside of mine isn't too bad. We're going to wipe everything down. It's going to get everything nice and clean. On the frame, we just need to get mostly this part up here. We just want to get a little oil up around this area here where the slide moves back and forth. So we don't want to get it all over the grip frame. Just a couple of drops here and here, here, here. We just kind of smear that around. And we're just going to let everything sit for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to wipe it all down. All right, it's been a little bit of time since we coated these with oil, so now I'm just going to wipe everything down. Start with a takedown pin. Just going to wipe that down real good, get that nice and clean. We're just going to use cotton rag here. Next, I'm going to take the recoil spring and guide rod assembly. We're just going to wipe that down. I like to try and get between in the grooves here. Twist that all the way up, and it's going to get that all nice and clean. The other thing you could do is get your gun brush, kind of clean it up a little bit, get the oil off of it. Then you can use that use the bristles to push the rag in between the grooves there, and then kind of turn the spring. Yeah, gets it pretty clean. All right, that's looking pretty clean. Set that aside. Next, we're going to do the barrel. Now the barrel, we want to wipe the outside of it off. That's nice and easy. Now we're going to get our bore snake, and this is a 380 and 9mm bore snake. So we're just going to feed the bore snake through the barrel, and it's got built-in copper brushes, which is going to help loosen any caked on dirt that might be in there. And it's going to scrape it, fits nice and tight. And then the rest of the bore snake is going to wipe everything nice and clean. I usually run the bore snake through 2 or 3 times, and that's going to get the inside of that barrel super clean. Run it through from the breech end to the muzzle end, like this. This is definitely the fastest way and the least messy way to clean the inside of the barrel. Then when you look down the barrel, you can see how nice and clean that is. Lastly on the barrel is you want to make sure that the feed ramp is nice and clean and shiny. This is where the rounds get forced up into the barrel between shots. All right, now that's all you need to do for the barrel. Barrel's nice and clean. Now to get the slide clean, something I found that works pretty well, because there's a lot of deep nooks and crannies here, is throw your cotton rag over there and use your brush to kind of push the rag in there. It gets down, and all the brush will force the rag down into all the little nooks and crannies, all the tight spots, and it's going to get the vast majority of all that cleaner out of there. Use the small one to get down in the tighter spots, like that. Use the brush, use the bristles of the brush to force the rag down into the tight spots. All right, then after you get most of it up like that, get your cotton swabs. I like these. It's got a smaller tip and a larger tip. And this tip fits right in the slots here that you want to get nice and clean. So just use cotton swabs to get all the final little areas out of there. Doesn't have to be spotless, but you want to definitely get any kind of buildup out of there. Then anywhere else that you see the cleaner, just go down and get it down into the, just use your swabs until you get everything pretty nice and clean. And you're also going to want to make sure the breech face right here, just get the breech face nice and clean right there. And you especially want to get, So if you look carefully here, you see kind of a hook right here. That's actually what's called the extractor, and that's what grabs on to the base. That little hook in there is what grabs onto your rounds to pull them out of the chamber after it's been fired. So it's very important that you make sure that area is clean underneath that little extractor hook. Wipe down the outside and the sides of the slide until it's nice and clean. Okay, been working on this a little bit. I got this real nice and clean. This slot right here is called the slide cut on both sides. As long as that's nice and clean, you're good to go. All right, so next is the frame. We want to do the same thing. Going to use the brush and a rag to clean all those areas. Get some in there real good. Get down inside there with the rag. I like to push a rag through the grip to just kind of pull any dirt out through there like that. Just wipe everything down like you did on the slide. And then get in there with your cotton swabs, any areas that you couldn't get with the cloth and the brush. Then again, you want to get in these little slide areas here. Make sure they're nice and clean. The beauty of using a CLP like we're using here, you don't have to get every little bit out of there because it's also a lubricant. So that's just going to help make things work nice and smooth. Pretty nice and clean there. All right, now we're going to lubricate. Okay, now as far as lubrication, the Ruger manual calls for a very, very small amount of lube on this firearm. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a couple of drops of oil on this rag here. And all I'm going to do is lightly wipe the outside of the barrel. Get the barrel lug right here, which helps it lock up. All right, a little bit of lube there. You don't really need to lube this, but it wouldn't hurt. Just take that little bit of oil and just kind of wipe it on there a little bit. This pin here, wipe that with a little oil. Going to make it easier to go in and out next time. Just a little bit. Now we're going to get a little bit, a couple more drops. And all I'm going to do is run this along the slide rail here. Just a little bit of oil in there. Do the same thing in here. All right, that's about all you need for oil. You could put just a small touch, on these rails, because that's where the slide's going to be moving along. And that's really all you need for lubrication. You don't want to over lubricate because it's just going to attract dust and dirt. But you need enough to keep things a little bit wet so things will move smoothly. All right, so now we're going to reassemble. Take the slide upside down, drop the barrel into the slide so it looks just like that. Take the recoil spring and guide rod. This is the front, this is the back. The front goes in here. Squeeze it a little till it fits in that notch. Should look just like that. Make sure it's centered in here. All right. Now take the frame, line it up like that. Slide that on. Now at this point we want to kind of hold it like this and line up these notches here so you can kind of see the hole right through. So line those up, take down pin, these notches face upward so the curve goes in like that. All right, and then push that in nice and flush. Release the slide. Now you just want to work the slide a few times to make sure it feels right. Everything looks good. Now before you take it to the range, you want to go to the function and safety test video that I linked to up above here and in the description, so you can just run through a few quick tests to make sure that the firearm is ready to go and everything is working right. I also will link to a video that I'm going to show you how to disassemble and clean the magazine. The magazine does not have to be cleaned that often, but if you drop it in the dirt or in the gravel outside at the range, you definitely want to open this up, clean it out, and make sure there's nothing in there that's going to cause it to malfunction. Function and safety check for a Ruger Security 380 or a Security 9 pistol. Anytime you reassemble this pistol after cleaning or doing any other kind of work on it, you want to do a quick function check to make sure everything is working right. So this is in the Ruger Security manual. Of course, we're going to make sure the gun is unloaded before we do anything else. The gun is unloaded. The first thing you want to do is just a visual inspection. This gun is pretty much brand new, so I'm not going to find anything wrong with this one, but make sure nothing looks out of place, bent, broken, cracked, anything like that. Next thing you want to do is check the function of the slide. And for this check, we want to have the magazine out of the gun. The slide forward, the manual safety is in the fire position, which it is. Pull the slide to the rear and release it. Says to do that twice. The slide should move freely all the way to the rear and close completely under the force of the recoil spring, which it did. We want to put in an empty magazine. Do the same thing, and it should lock back on an empty magazine as it is. Now, removing the magazine, the slide should remain in the rear position until we run it to the back and release. All right, everything working great there as far as the function of the slide. Next, we move on to the function of the trigger. With the magazine removed from the pistol, we want to cycle the slide open and close to ensure the hammer is cocked. You can see the hammer if you look through the back of the slide. Move the safety to the safe position. Always point the gun in a safe direction anytime you pull the trigger, whether you think it's empty or not. Attempt to pull the trigger and nothing should happen. The trigger will move back and the hammer will not fall. Move the safety to the fire position and do the same thing, and the hammer should fall. And now, after pulling the trigger, try and put the safety back into the safe position. It should not go back into the safe position. It should only do that when the hammer is back. Now, with the safety in the fire position as it is, point it in a safe direction, pull the trigger, and hold it to the rear. With the trigger held to the rear, cycle the slide to reset the hammer. Slowly release the trigger. And you should hear the trigger reset, and the hammer should not fall. Now move the safety to the safe position and attempt to pull the trigger. The trigger should move forward and stop, and the hammer should not fall. All right, those are the basic safety functions of the Ruger as far as the manual goes. There is one additional test that I like to do to make sure everything's going to work. I do this additional test on all the guns after I reassemble them. Get yourself some dummy rounds for the gun that you are working with. My preferred dummy rounds, these are A-Zoom. These particular ones are 380 auto. They're basically just pieces of aluminum in the shape of a bullet. So I'm going to load up 5 dummy rounds. All right, I'm going to load 5 dummy rounds. I'm going to load the magazine, rack the slide. You can see the orange of the dummy round, so we know that a dummy round is loaded into the chamber. This test is to make sure the gun is going to extract and eject the empty brass as I fire the gun. So I'm going to simulate firing the gun just by cycling the slide 5 times. And what should happen here is each time I cycle the slide, a dummy round should be ejected from the gun, and after the 5th one, the slide should lock back, because the slide will lock back on an empty magazine. So here we go. Worked flawlessly. So that's the last test that I like to do, and now the gun is ready to go to the range. So if you found this video helpful, please hit like below. I'll have links in the description for dummy rounds for all different calibers down there. Please subscribe, and thanks for watching. Today we're going to disassemble and clean the magazines for a Ruger Security 380 light rack pistol. The Ruger Security 380 comes with 2 magazines, 15-round magazine and a 10-round magazine. So anytime you clean your gun, you don't want to overlook your magazines. Magazines are very important as far as the functioning of the gun, so you want to make sure they're in good shape. If you've dropped them in the dirt or gravel at the range, you definitely want to take these apart and make sure there's nothing inside that's going to impede its proper operation. In order to disassemble the magazine, we just want to take the base plate off. The base plate slides off toward the front of the magazine, so all you need is a pin punch, a small screwdriver, or even the flag that comes with the gun. So you're going to want to wear eye protection for this. There is a spring involved, and you don't want anything to pop out and hit you in the eye. Hold the magazine like this. Put your thumb here. Just get ready to push the base plate toward the front. So just push whatever you're going to use down in here. When you feel some resistance, keep pushing and push the magazine. This one tends to want to come by itself. Keep your thumb over top as you pull this off, because then your spring's going to push out. And then just allow the spring to push it out. Just remove everything. You just got your spring. This is your follower, and all we need to do now is kind of wipe everything down. Wipe down the magazine tube. You can push a rag through it like that to get anything that might be inside. Wipe down the follower real good. Wipe down the spring. Wipe down the insert. Wipe down the base plate. If any of the parts are really dirty, you want to take a little CLP, such as original gun oil. This stuff's non-toxic and it's safe to use on plastics, and it really doesn't have a smell to it. I would just put a drop on a rag, wipe everything down with some CLP, wipe down your entire spring, wipe down the follower, and wipe down the magazine tube. If the inside of the magazine needs some cleaning, just get a brush, just put a drop of CLP on the brush, and just clean the inside of the magazine real quick. Once you do that, then take a dry cloth, kind of push that through to clean up the oil and the dirt, and then wipe everything down, get the oil and cleaner off of there. Now the Ruger manual does call for a little bit of CLP on the spring inside. I assume that's for corrosion resistance. So I would take a drop again on your rag. You really don't want much at all, just a tiny drop, and just kind of wipe down the spring, follow the spring down. Right? And it also recommends a little on the outside of the magazine, but you don't want your magazine to be slippery either, so you can wipe some of that off. That's really all there is to it. Just wipe it down, make sure it's clean and dry. Tiny bit of lube on the spring, and then let's put it back together. This is the front of the magazine here. The front of the follower has this little ledge right here on the front. So that's going to line up with the front like this. Push that up into place. And then this insert goes in this way along the back. It's going to go in like that. So start sliding that in. And then there's a little loop at the top to hook your spring into. So just kind of hook the end of the spring into that loop so it looks like that. And then just slide it in this way. Make sure the follower's seated. Just slide it in. Place your thumb over top. Make sure the spring gets past the lip there. Okay, make sure it goes down in like that. Keep your thumb over top. Then take your base plate. It's got notches in the back. Lines up with the notches, with the metal notches on the magazine tube. Press down. When you get here, it's going to hit that little divot there, so kind of press down a little more on that, and then this will slide up and it'll pop into place. Once it's into place, make and it should pop into place. Make sure it stays on there. Make sure the follower presses down when you press on it. Something I always do after I take a magazine apart, I get some dummy rounds. These are A-Zoom dummy rounds I got from Amazon. I'll put a link in the description below. These are great. You can get these in any caliber. These are 380s, of course, and they're just fake ammunition. You can test a lot of things on your weapon with dummy rounds completely safely in your home, and this is one of the things you can check. So load up 5 rounds into your magazine. Make sure your firearm is completely empty. Put your magazine in there. Rack your slide home. We can see that there's a round chambered. So all we're going to do here is, we're not pulling the trigger or anything. We're just going to simulate firing the gun by racking the slide several times. So this is going to test that the magazine is feeding the ammunition properly and that the gun is extracting and ejecting rounds as it is fired. And after the 5th time, the magazine is going to be empty and the slide should lock back. And that will show that the magazine is working properly. So we just do this. Alright, they fed properly, the empty magazine does hold the slide back, so everything's working great with this magazine. Alright, so then repeat for any other magazines that you have. Another thing that the Ruger comes with, I wanted to mention, it does come with an extra base plate. So if you don't like this extra grip, if you want to make your gun just a little bit smaller, you can take this base plate off, keep your thumb over there, and put on the more flush fitting base plate. So now it just makes your gun grip a little bit smaller for easier concealment. So if you found this video helpful, please hit like below. Please subscribe. Please check out the description below for some of the links. And thanks for watching.